Coming up on Network Africa, officials reveal 170 people killed in northern Burkina Faso by unknown attackers targeting 4 villages. South Africa's opposition party Economic Freedom Fighters vow to end load shedding in the country during its manifesto launch in Soweto. Plus, condition for ending the war in Sudan, military leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan seeks reinstatement to the African Union bloc. Hello and welcome to the program today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Layo Olarinde. We begin in Burkina Faso, where the regional prosecutors are revealing that about 170 people have been killed in the space of 1 week by unknown attackers. In a statement by Ali Benjamin Koulibaly, the attackers targeted 4 villages in Yatenga province, and that's in the northern region, before executing several people on February 25th. The statement did not name the attackers. However, Burkina Faso has been battling an Islamist militant insurgency in the north and in the east. Armed groups, some affiliated to Al-Qaeda and ISIS, regularly launch attacks on civilian and military installations. The violence in the country has killed almost 20,000 people and displaced over 2 million others. Officials say an investigation is underway, with authorities appealing to the public for any information on the attack. And at least 3 people have been killed and 3 others injured following an attack by gunmen in Beni town, and that's in the Democratic Republic of Congo. According to authorities, the attack in the North Kivu province was perpetrated by the Allied Democratic Forces Group. That's an armed militia with alleged ties to the Islamic State. And this happened near a food store in the town's Nzuma district at night. Several attacks attributed to the ADF have been reported across the Beni region in recent weeks. The DRC's armed forces say they have launched an operation against the militia in the western region of the territory. In the meantime, top army officials from the Southern African Regional Bloc have visited the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, and this is amid ongoing fighting between government troops and M23 rebels. The Chief of Defense Staff of Southern African Development Community SADC countries held a high-level meeting in the capital city of Goma, and that is the capital of the North Kivu province. Congolese army spokesperson General Sylvain Ekenge said the meeting was a question of assessing the progress of operations on ground and also fine-tuning strategies for strengthening them. According to him, the visit by the chiefs of staff was a strong signal of the commitment and determination of SADC and Burundi alongside the DRC. Now, this is their first coordination meeting since the deployment of SADC troops in North Kivu, and it's coming 2 days after SADC armored vehicles were hit during an M23 attack. Let's talk politics now. South Africa's third largest party, the Economic Freedom Fighters, has announced a bold plan. Now, the party vows to eliminate township debts owed to Eskom if it gains control of Gauteng province in the upcoming elections. Now, this announcement came during the party's provincial manifesto launch in Dobsonville, Soweto, following its main manifesto event in KwaZulu-Natal last month. Party leader Julius Malema has emphasized their commitment to providing free electricity to poor households under an EFF government, echoing their manifesto theme, which is our lands now, jobs now, and load shedding.
We want to say to the people of Soweto that the EFF is going to write off all the debt that is owed to Eskom for all townships and poor households knows. Comrades, Gauteng will no longer be a province. There will no longer be a province called Limpopo. There won't be a province called Mpumalanga. We don't want provinces in the EFF. Provinces are a waste of money. Today, no one can tell me as to what is the role of the Premier, what is the role of the MEC. Mayors are more important and play important role better than the Premiers and MECs. Councillors play more important role better than the MECs. We don't want provincial legislatures. Moshe, you must start looking for a job because there won't be a legislature.
Our correspondent in Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, joins us now for more. Hello, Innocent. Thanks for your time. I mean, it's election season. We're about 2 months away from general polls, but, you know, parties have started launching their manifestos. Tell us how this has been going.
Well, a very good evening to you, Nayo, and our viewers. It's always good to be in your company. Yeah, it's election time. It's time for promises. I mean, politicians make promises every day. It seems as though it's in their nature. In fact, when Julius Malema was speaking, they were smiling because there's no context to what he's saying. He's promising people, but the how part is missing. I mean, you tell people that you're going to remove ESCOM debt. Where are you going to get the money? Because the economy is not doing well. The fiscus is there's no money, there's no reserves. So how are you going to do it, Mr. Julius Malema? So those are the questions that we, in fact, ask ourselves. But, you know, it's election time, it's campaigning. I mean, they had, what, 2 election manifestos so far. The one was in KwaZulu-Natal under their theme where they're still speaking about the land and they want to stop load shedding. And also the issues of load shedding. There's no context. He's not telling us how he's going to stop load shedding, you know. So it's just him telling us that he's going to do it, but we don't know how he's going to do it. So those are the questions also that is left hanging. Hence, Layo, at the moment, we are in a coalition government in South Africa because voters cannot trust one political party. They in fact say to them, well, we'll give you votes, we'll share you votes and then go and work together. And it's quite difficult for a coalition setup in South Africa because some of these political parties, Layo, they come with ideologies or cardinal pillars, and some of those cardinal pillars, they can't compromise them. And you know, when you're in a coalition government, you would need to compromise some of your values, for want of a better term, so you can meet the other party halfway. But yeah, it's very interesting time. I can tell you, the ANC also had its first election manifesto. It seems as though big political parties are planning to go to different provinces to essentially have election manifestos and conscientize people. But at the moment, it does, Layo, look like the ANC, it does have political infrastructure. When you look at President Cyril Ramaphosa, he does have political infrastructure. There are people who are on the ground doing door-to-door for him, you know, speaking to different people about the ANC. And it seemed as though, despite all of these challenges and the failures of the African National Congress, it's amazing. People still love the ANC. In fact, I was talking to someone and saying, are you going to vote? And they say, yes, we're going to vote. And it's not a secret. They actually told me that they're going to vote for the ANC. And I'm like, why would you vote for the ANC with all of these challenges? You know, the economy is not doing well, deteriorating infrastructure, unemployment challenges. Why would you still vote for the ANC? And it does seem as though those are staunch supporters of the African National Congress, and they feel that if they don't vote for the ANC, possibly they might not get the grant money that the government is giving them every month for elderly people and kids. So I think in a way, they feel like they will lose that if they don't vote for the ANC. But there is a lot of despondency. People really don't trust the ANC, but it looks like they will still vote for the African National Congress for some reasons, Lion.
Indeed, citizens all they have the right to pick, whoever they feel is the best to give them what they'll need in the country. But let me ask you how preparations are coming up, for the May election with the Electoral Commission. You could also, help us understand what seats are up for grabs and how, election is done in South Africa.
100%, Layo. So for the first time in these elections, we'll be having independent candidates. So these people will be having signatures. They'll go to the community and have signatures. So they then will present that to the Independent Electoral Commission. And for the first time, really, we are having to find ourselves in a situation where you can essentially vote for one person to represent a particular community in parliament, which I guess is going to be a little bit challenging, Layo. And I'm saying this because this individual will be competing with a big machinery like the African National Congress, the likes of the Democratic Alliance, the Economic Freedom Fighters, with a huge chunk of numbers, and they've got the likes of the ANC. They've got chiefs and kings in the villages where they still subscribe to the African National Congress. So for that individual independent candidate, it's going to be a little bit challenging. But I guess it's democracy, and it's interesting because for the first time, we're now trying some of the things that present themselves, some of the possibilities that South Africa's constitution presents itself, where a person can just, go and represent a particular community or a particular section of people in parliament. With regards to the IEC, it seems as though it's all system go. In fact, they also mentioned last week, I think it was last month, that the South Africans who are living in the diaspora, they had a portal where they're supposed to essentially register to vote. And they were also encouraged to vote, to register regardless of of where they are. You would know that some of the embassies, for example, the Israeli embassy, South African embassy in Israel is actually closed at the moment. But they were inspired, they were encouraged, compelled to essentially register in case things change in the future, so that they can be able to can cast their votes. But I can tell you, Layo, that in fact, I was talking to someone that with these promises that we're getting from different political party leaders, if it was possible that if to give more powers to the Independent Electoral Commission, that if a political party is not providing or delivering what they're supposed to deliver or what they promised, the IEC should be given power to actually deregister that political party. But I guess that's just my mind. I guess it's going to take long with legislature and passing of the laws. So yeah, it's election time. It's an exciting time. We will be busy as journalists, really, following these politicians and speaking to ordinary South Africans live.
Indeed, Innocent. We'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, our correspondent in South Africa.
Thank you so much, Lion.
We're still in South Africa. The Companies and Intellectual Property Commission, CICC, has reported a significant security breach. According to officials, personal information was unlawfully accessed and exposed. The commission was now forced to inform people about the security compromise because of the Protection of the Personal Information Act. The breach comprised the personal data of both clients and employees stored in the CICC records. Analysts suggest that this incident highlights broader concerns about cybersecurity infrastructure in South Africa.
The full extent of the hack is not yet known. Obviously, part of the major risk is that once that personal information is in criminals' hands, they can use it to go and steal money from bank accounts, to go and make sort of shadow businesses using someone else's identity. Identity theft can also be used to borrow. So there's a range of possibilities, and given that it's information coming out of a patent office, the assumption is that the persons that are being compromised are fairly high net worth individuals, prime targets, as a hacker might conceive of them. This is part of a bigger problem in South Africa. It was grey listed over a year ago for not having the proper requirements in cybersecurity to stop illicit funding of terrorism and flows, financial flows of that nature. Recently been joined by Kenya and Namibia. I think part of the problem is that even if fairly decent cybersecurity is installed locally, you're competing with the best in the world, because the internet makes the world really into a little village. So a hacker that's on the other side of the world, in a way, is just next door if he's or she's trying to breach into your cyber treasure chests. In terms of the bigger picture impact, it's part of a bigger problem in South Africa of crime, of unaccountability. I don't think South Africans have much realistic expectation that there'll be accountability for this. South Africa, of course, famous, was home to the world's biggest Bitcoin hack. Billions of dollars vanished, and nothing has really changed in terms of the system here to prevent that kind of thing from happening again. So we've got a bit of a systemic problem. Ultimately comes down to political accountability. And in the meanwhile, I think that the best solution to this for private sector players, for normal people, is to unfortunately have to double down on their own cybersecurity, to be vigilant, and probably to hire teams, private teams, to help defend them against the pikes of the new seas, the new high seas, the internet.
Welcome back to the program. Sudan's military leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan says Sudan will only consider the African Union's proposal to end the conflict if the continental bloc reinstates its full membership. The AU suspended Sudan following the military takeover of power on the 25th of October 2021. Now, General al-Burhan met members of the recently formed AU high-level panel on the resolution of the conflict in Sudan on Sunday. The three-member panel was established by the AU Commission in January to facilitate dialogue and restore constitutional order, and also to work collaboratively with Sudanese stakeholders and the international community towards lasting peace. According to a statement from the ruling Sudanese Sovereign Council, General al-Burhan expressed Sudan's confidence in the AU and the potential solutions it can provide to end the war, but it says only if the state regains its full membership and the organization treats it as such. And as the war in Sudan continues, more and more refugees continue to flock into neighboring countries. The UN Refugee Agency is now expressing concern that more refugees will cross to Chad from Darfur in the coming months amid a worrying lack of food and other essential humanitarian aid, tight situation funding, and continued concerns about security across the border. Now, almost a year since the start of the war in Sudan, neighboring Chad is said to need urgently more humanitarian essentials and a significant development investment to be able to stabilize the fragile socio-economic environment. UNHCR's Deputy High Commissioner, that's Mr. Kelly Clements, is on a visit to Chad, and he's met with Sudanese refugees who spoke about the difficulties they faced escaping the conflict.
We've had conversations with women in particular, because most of the refugees that are coming are women and families. They don't have their male companions with them. They still talk about the basics. They talk about needing clean water. They need a shelter in some places. So one of the most worrying things that I've heard over the last couple of days is we may see families at smaller numbers coming across the border increasing very markedly. There are constraints on our ability to be able to provide assistance into Darfur from Chad and from other neighboring countries, and the conflict and the war continues. So we're likely to see many more people come to Chad.
6 people have died in Mauritius after a fire broke out during a Hindu pilgrimage. 7 others are also injured in the incident and have been admitted to hospital for medical attention. Police say a wooden and bamboo cart carrying effigies of deities caught fire after coming in contact with electrical wires. The pilgrims were said to have been walking to Grand Basin Lake, considered sacred by the island's Hindu community, ahead of a religious festival on March 8th. Back here in Nigeria, agricultural startups are being charged to leverage on technology to provide solutions to the economic challenges and the rising cost of food items in the country. Now, this is coming from the Lagos State Commissioner for Agriculture, Abisola Olusoya, during the Agri-Innovation Tribe meeting in Ikoyi. Ms. Olusoya asked the youth to get involved in development process and to help solve food crisis in the nation.
It's full speed ahead for the Lagos state government as it races towards achieving food sufficiency.
We are different people.
The government is catching them young in this journey of agriculture development as it involves the youths, who are already part of the state government's Agri-Innovation Initiative. This time, they are being engaged by the State Ministry of Agriculture on how to harmonize and solve common problems associated with startups in the agri sector.
There's something about starting small and starting lean. That is the most important element of building a business.
The state government encourages the youths to get on board and walk the path of change they all crave.
You must be a part of the system, understand the system properly to be able to deep dive enough to start to make the change you want to see. The idea also is, like he said, it's to start to harmonize all of what we do, all of the issues we're facing. And we as government can also begin to partner with them to help you deliver services that will, number one, come cheaper to you, and also you get it in such a way and manner that it makes a lot of sense. And then the partnership and network that you would also share here, it would also carry you through tough times.
The Chief Executive Officer of Eco Innovation Center says the current food crisis is not peculiar to Nigeria. He asks youths involved in the agri business to leverage on technology in closing value chain supply gaps.
As a country of 200 million people and growing at 6.7%, we cannot afford not to take agriculture as a big deal. And so my charge to the young entrepreneurs in agri is how they use technology to be able to scale their business and increase our production and the capability of Nigeria and Nigerians to feed ourselves.
Meanwhile, the State Commissioner for Agriculture, Abisola Olusoya, clamors for more young entrepreneurs to show interest in the agriculture sector and help solve the food security challenge.
We're at a turning point in the history of Nigeria, where food insecurity has now become such a major challenge, but we face a bigger problem. The younger generation, you're talking of your primary schools, your secondary schools, they do not aspire to go into anything related to food. And as such, that becomes a big problem, a big challenge that we must tackle head on. So the idea is around also innovating, bringing about new inventions within the food space tailored to our own peculiarities and our own needs.
Agri entrepreneurs are also being encouraged to work closely with the government in reshaping the agriculture sector to grow various businesses across all value chains in the state.
UNICEF is urging the international community to immediately scale up their support for children and families to avert a deepening humanitarian catastrophe throughout Ethiopia. During a 5-day visit, the Deputy Executive Director visited one of the hardest hit drought areas in Tigray, where malnutrition rates have surpassed the emergency threshold.
I'm here in Tigray in February at a time where families should be enjoying the fruits of their crops to sustain themselves and their families. But in Tigray, like in much of Ethiopia from north to south, we're facing the results of an El Nino-driven drought of different disease outbreaks, including cholera, of the knock-on effect of COVID and conflict, and the coping mechanisms of family are at the absolute stretch. We need to support children and their families now during this upcoming lean season, which is going to stretch into September, to avoid the worst. We need to be able to support health extension workers, to be able to treat children against severe acute malnutrition and other childhood illnesses. We need to be able to get food aid to the 6.5 million individuals that are in need of food aid now. We need to be able to have water systems in place that both provide clean drinking water for families, but also allow them to have household-based food security activities to sustain themselves. UNICEF has been a key partner of Ethiopia the last 70 years. We're here working in health, in nutrition, in education, in water, sanitation, and hygiene and child protection to support the population. We're appealing for $535 million, and every dollar that you contribute makes a real difference for children and their families. We cannot forget Ethiopia. We need to be here during this difficult time for children and their families.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.